This is the prestigious one, Joe Hendry, and you are in the Wrestling Epicenter.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio, right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. Believe it or not, it is your host, your humble servant, James Walsh, joining you with a little bit more of a Stevie Richards voice than I care to admit. Unfortunately, I'm under the weather. I have been for a few weeks. That's why we didn't do, plus Thanksgiving and all that good stuff, but that's why we haven't done a show, as it were, in a few weeks, because I've been just sick as a dog. I feel fine, but my voice is still beat up, but it's getting better, so you can imagine what it used to sound like last week. Anyway, welcome one and all to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio, and this week we have two different guests for you with very different things that they're promoting, but oddly enough, in our own wrestling bubble, we're going to combine them into one. So here's what we've got. First things first, from Ring of Honor Wrestling. Final Battle is happening this Friday, and he'll be in a tag team match, a highly featured tag team encounter, teaming with Dalton Castle, who I really enjoy, had a real fun exchange with back on the media call for Ring of Honor a couple years back, if you can believe it's been that long. He is Joe Hendry. That was my attempt at singing, by the way. That's with my voice like now. I actually can sing if I try, but there you go. He's going to be facing Silas Young as well as Josh the Goods Woods in a tag team match, highly featured at Final Battle, which of course will be main evented for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship by the one and only PCO challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship against Roosh. I don't know that there's any more sympathetic, rooting for him for all the right reasons babyface in the entire world of professional wrestling anywhere, possibly even including Cody, than PCO right now. Because everybody wants to see him win this match. It's been a long, hard road, as Dusty Rhodes said once, but it's time to come on home and get yourself the World Heavyweight Championship. But he's got a bull standing in his way in Roosh. It's going to be an interesting encounter for sure. Our other guest of the week, by the way, is from Walking on Hot Waffles. Did you catch that? The name of the publishing company for his books is called Walking on Hot Waffles, WOHW. He explains the reason for that name as well in our interview. I speak to Kenny Casanova, who wrote the book for guys like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, as well as Sabu, and now he's just co-wrote a book here. Ghost wrote a book with Tito Santana Arriba, who we had on twice, actually. Once right after the Hall of Fame in 2004, and once when his first autobiography came out. So this is going to be a really cool interview with a guy who's just a lot like me, to be perfectly honest. A little strange, a little weird, a little bit funny, and maybe he even likes a little bit of the bubbly, who knows. But regardless, he is a great guest. I already recorded the interview, cat's out of the bag, and it turned out pretty good. He's a really fun guy, and I hope everybody does check out WOHW.com to check out his book catalog. He did the book with Vader recently as well that was released after Vader had passed. Also a former guest on the show. Bugsy McGraw. He's working on one with Just Incredible. Danny Davis, Nightmare Danny Davis, the evil referee that everybody my age and older grew up hating. So we're going to try and get some of these guys on the show as well as Kenny Casanova, but I hope you guys enjoy that. Again, big week for professional wrestling. Friday night, Friday the 13th, you have the huge event, ROH Final Battle. Don't miss it. You can get it on Honor Club, as well as Fight TV, and of course your local pay-per-view provider. Check your local listings for availability. Definitely get it. Now, and Don't Wait has Mean Gene Okerlund, also a former guest I'm name dropping like crazy today, used to say, "Don't wait until the 11th hour. Order yourself Final Battle on pay-per-view." Without any further delay, let's get to the interviews right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hey, this is PCO Perfect Creation 1, and you're listening to the Epicenter.
Like what you're hearing? Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/Wrestling Epicenter, or just search Wrestling Epicenter in the search box on Facebook. On Twitter at WEpicenter. On YouTube at IWR Interactive. And of course, check us out at WrestlingEpicenter.com, your hub and home of all things professional wrestling interviews. We're the originals, and we love what we do.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is a Ring of Honor superstar, a gentleman who last joined us as part of an Impact Wrestling media conference call, Joe Hendry. Mr. Hendry, are you with us?
I am indeed.
It's a pleasure to have you on. How you doing?
I'm here. Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic.
All right. It's got to be late at night there in Scotland.
That's not too bad. It's 9 p.m. We've just finished up one of our classes at our training school, so it's all good. I'm in the wrestling zone just now, so I'm ready for whatever comes my way.
All right. So let's get some questions going here for you. So, of course, I introduced you as a Ring of Honor star. You were a recent signee to Ring of Honor. So what is your experience been like thus far in Ring of Honor?
I have to be honest. It's been awesome. You know, it's been it's what I thought the dream would be. Like, I mean, it's just I'm traveling to all these new places because before I didn't have a visa. So this is the first time I've had a visa. I haven't been able to work in the United States before. So I'm seeing all these amazing places. I mean, before I was only really able to do Canada and Mexico and things like that. So as a British wrestler, and a lot of us tend to miss out on, what it seems like over in the States. So it's been really amazing to experience that, and all the different places I've been. It's been, I hate to be cliched, but it's been an honor. It's been a fantastic opportunity. They've looked after me really well, and there's some amazing people that I've met along the way. It's been a really great experience.
Very good, very good. I was doing some research leading up to this interview, and I saw that your tag partner for Final Battle is a guy that you have had matches with before in the past, all the way back to 2017, and that's Dalton Castle. What's your guys' relationship and kinship?
Here's the thing. You know what it's like. Me and Dalton, we're we got to be the two biggest egos, two biggest personalities in Ring of Honor. So there's it's hard to keep two egos like that in one tag team. But we made the very adult decision that putting those two personalities together would, even just by default, make us the most entertaining tag team in wrestling. So that's exactly what we've done. And obviously we're looking towards Final Battle, which is a huge thing for me. It's a huge step in my career, and Dalton's a former world champion, and to be facing the likes of Silas Young, who's obviously a long reigning television champion, and Josh Woods as well, who's a phenomenal athlete. We're gonna, this is going to be as entertaining as it is athletic.
It should definitely be an entertaining tag team. And both you guys, despite your entertaining aspects, are very accomplished amateur wrestlers. Do you think maybe your opponents might take that for granted?
Well, I mean, absolutely not, because here's the thing. Josh and Silas are pretty crafty themselves. I believe Josh was a national champion amateur wrestler, and Silas has got more experience than all of us. So it's don't let our credentials fool you. This is going to be a very competitive matchup. But, it's pretty cool to have myself and Dalton, who are known for our personalities, but when you scratch beneath the surface, we do have that legit background as well.
Very good. I saw an interview you did earlier this year, and you were talking about maybe finishing up your amateur wrestling. Are you still active at amateur at all, or have you focused entirely on pro?
I'm focused on pro wrestling right now. I've opened up my wrestling school, so I'm really kind of focused on that just now. And I actually haven't. The last amateur wrestling match I had was when I won my second British title. That was at the 2018 Greco-Roman Wrestling Championship. So I won the British title in 2018. And I thought, unless something comes along that is something, it has to be a goal that is so huge that I have to come back for. For right now, I'm focusing entirely on pro, but I think in today's day and age, people have seen that, pro wrestling and amateur wrestling and jiu-jitsu and MMA can intersect at any and all times. So, I mean, never say never, but it would take something special for me to bring that back into the mix right now. When you're with a company like Ring of Honor and you're in the spot I'm in, the competition is huge. There's a healthy competition on that roster to be high up in that card, and I want to compete. And right now, I need to focus on pro wrestling.
Awesome. Mind if I ask you a few questions about your brief stint in Impact Wrestling?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I know we're here to promote Ring of Honor, but let's talk about the first time a lot of the guys stateside got a chance to see you, and that, of course, was in Impact Wrestling. Great run there where you did your own theme songs for every entrance, and they were spectacular. What was your experience like with Impact?
I think it was a lot of fun. Teaming with Grado, it was a lot of fun. He's got a special kind of charisma. He's just one of these guys that, in front of the camera and behind the scenes, he's one of these people that people just gravitate to. So, being in a tag team and kind of being on the road with him was, just a good time that I'll always remember. And it was, to be honest with you, again, as I was saying, I didn't actually have a visa, so I was really only on any tapings that were in Canada or Mexico. So, I did the absolute best that I could do by doing music videos and stuff like that when I wasn't in the States. But the truth is, for me, where I'm at in my career right now, I need to be 100% behind what I'm doing, and that's focusing on Ring of Honor right now.
Right, absolutely. And I got to be honest, when you said that about the visa, I started doing math in my head, like, okay, I know they were in Toronto for this taping, and so that makes a lot of sense. That was actually one of my questions, was why did it seemingly end so abruptly? I guess it had to do with visa issues, though, or the fact that you didn't have a visa.
To be honest, it's like some things are for the fans to know, some things are private business matters. And for me, I felt the best business move for me and the place that I wanted to go was Ring of Honor. And I think we're in a situation where there's a lot of companies thriving in professional wrestling right now. I'm, thankful for the time I've had at all various companies. I feel like I've always been treated with respect, and I have absolutely no complaints about anything. I wish everyone well, but like I said, right now my heart is at Ring of Honor, and that's what I'm focused on.
Very good. Ring of Honor has a lot of an international flavor right now. Mark Haskins, for example, from the UK as well. Definitely a lot of international flavor in Ring of Honor. How does it make you feel to know that UK market, that Scotland, Ireland, and England market has reached out so far into the States and is seen all over the place now? You guys, there was a time that you guys had like tribute shows with parodies of wrestlers as your main shows, and now you guys are the main. You're the draws of the
we had
nation
the UK
right
Rock
now,
and Yeah, there used to be the UK Rock and the UK Undertaker doing tribute shows in the UK. But I have to say, I actually got into professional wrestling in 2013. So I have to be honest that a lot of the hard work was done before I ever laced up a pair of boots. So I'm thankful to, all the people that came before me with like the, even if you look back to FWA, that was what I used to watch on the wrestling channel. I used to watch World of Sport, and actually FWA even kind of co-promoted shows with Ring of Honor as well. So it all comes back around. But I mean, there's a lot of British legends came long before me that really built up the scene back to what it is now. But yeah, getting to share the stage with the likes of Mark Askins, who's just a phenomenal performer and a great human being as well. And yeah, British wrestling across the entire professional world is, seemingly there's so much talent. There's more people doing well in British wrestling than ever before. And I just feel very privileged because I attended a Ring of Honor tryout 2016. Mm-hmm. That's what my gut told me to do. And, 3 years later, it paid off, and here we are. So that's a message for any trainees or wrestlers out there. You need to go and make it happen.
Awesome. Now, one of my favorite things about your persona is your ring entrances, the exclusive songs that you do for a lot of the opponents that you have. They are phenomenal. They're catchy. They're perfect. And a lot of times you take some pretty poignant shots at them in the process. Has anybody ever not taken the joke as well as you had intended?
Yep.
Simple answer to that one. What is your musical influence?
Yep,
where did you get this inspiration for music?
So just to elaborate on that, the answer is yes. I'd say it's happened once or twice, let's say. And if you go back and watch some of the matches, you can probably tell who didn't like it. But it is what it is. You got to be bold. You got to take risks. But musical influences, I mean, to be honest with you, when I really think about that, I think I was a huge fan of Tenacious D when I was a kid. And I think I watched their DVD, The Masterworks, hundreds of times. Me and my cousin used to watch it hundreds and hundreds of times. And I just kind of did this thing where I would listen to music and I would just like change the lyrics when I was singing along or whatever. And whoever I was with was just totally irritated by it. But I was just amusing myself. And who knew that would be the thing that got my name out there? But here we are.
Awesome. We'll circle back to Ring of Honor in just a second and talk about this coming pay-per-view this Friday night, Friday the 13th, so it's a little ominous too. But I mentioned to you off air, my wife is English. I've been calling. Mm-hmm. She lives with me now. She's been here 13 years. But my question was going to be, when they announced that World of Sport was coming back, I told her thinking she was going to be happy. Like, oh, you're going to like this. They're bringing back World of Sport. And she was like, oh, no, they can't do it like they used to do it. It's going to be different, and I don't want to remember it. I don't want the next generation to remember this like they remember, the new Clash of the Titans versus the original Clash of the Titans kind of thing.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on that, and how did you enjoy the World of Sport process?
Again, it was a very interesting experience. I think that was my first. I think if you look at the terms of when it was taped, I think that was the first terrestrial television broadcast that I'd done. I'd done commentary and wrestled for 5-Star Wrestling, which was on a different channel. But in terms of being on, ITV, that was a big thing. It was the tapings were very sort of intense, but it was a great group of people. It was great fun. I'm a fan of when you talk about overall the sport, I'm a fan of the Marty Jones and Terry Rudge and stuff like that. So that's kind of where my head is at in terms of, if I had my choice, that would be the style of wrestling that would have done. But then again, it's ITV, it's, that time slot, it's the demographic they wanted to go for. I think they had a goal in mind, and, it was a great experience. That's all I can really say. I've been very lucky to have the variety of experience that I've had in the short time I've been in the business. I first started training in 2013, and here we are. So
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. It's been a skyrocket, really, for you, more than a roller coaster. But just there you go. All right, a couple more questions for you. So, Ring of Honor is kind of in the spotlight right now for both great and not so great reasons. I'll skirt it a little bit and ask you this simple question: how much of the noise from the negativity is getting into the locker room, and does it impact you guys' psyche at all?
I have to be honest, like, all I can really do is speak for myself. You know, it's not my place to speak for anybody else, but I'm going to tell you my experience. I come from a place where there's been times where I'm talking to my girlfriend, and, you know, if I go and do an independent show, that I'm just going back, you know, a year, a couple of years, whatever, if we don't, you know, if I don't sell 10 T-shirts at the weekend, the next week's going to be pretty tricky, you know? So that's where I come from. I come from scratching and clawing for our next meal. You know, I just feel that sort of work ethic, and but it can be a very stressful thing. And now I'm in a situation where I've got a company that pays me a very comfortable salary that allows me to rest, to recuperate, and to focus when I'm at the shows. You know, when I get brought over, I'm put in nice hotels, and, you know, we've got a quality locker room. And I look at the things that I've been able to do. There have been weeks where I sent in a promo that was it was like a parody of a shopping network thing.
Right.
That I did for a kind of spoof Dalton Castle T-shirt. I sent it in, and they put it on TV. No editing. They put it on TV. They said to me, "Do you want to do music, or will we do music?" I said, "I'd like to do it." And they said, "No problem. Send us the file by this day and this time." I sent them the file. No editing. It went as is, you know? So I'm getting what I wanted out of being a signed professional wrestler. I feel taken care of. Now, I can't comment for other people, but all I can do is give my perspective, and I never BS my fans. I'm not going to do that. But I got to be honest, you know, if you look at the amount of days that I'm working, and the, you know, how I'm being looked after and how I'm being treated and the experiences I'm getting, I'm happy. And like I say, I respect everybody's journey is different. Everybody's got different opinions, but I'm going to tell you honestly, from my perspective, I feel very well looked after.
Very cool. When you got into the business, it was in a very different place. We had, there was only a few options out there. Ring of Honor has always been one of them, but with the Sinclair involvement, it's become bigger than ever before. Obviously, AEW has kind of thrown a monkey wrench in everybody's plans, and Impact still strong, and of course WWE, the king of the jungle. But what is your thoughts on wrestling in 2019 going into 2020, and how awesome and much selection there is for the fans? Did I lose you?
No. I'm just I'm doing. I just want to rather than, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk, and he pauses before he says things. You know, I'm just making sure what I say is funny.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, but hopefully this interview won't be, you know, famous for those reasons. But I think now, obviously, there's a huge amount of selection. Professional wrestling is, I think, to be honest with you, it's come with the rise in availability and convenience that's come with technology. You know, right now we're in an era where niche is king. Before, we had, you know, very few stations, we had very few options where it was, there you go, that's your small selection, take it or leave it. Whereas now, people can really watch whatever they want to, whenever they want to. They've got their own, you know, custom-built channels, if you will, by going through their streaming devices and TV, and, you know, there's more choice than ever before, and that's fantastic because there's lots of different options out there, and it's great because we all need to raise our game. And like I say, I really feel a healthy competition in our locker room to work our way up the card, and not just for ourselves selfishly, but to raise the entire standard of the show as well. So really, I've got friends in wrestling all over the world, and to see so many of my friends getting so many great opportunities. It's an amazing time. So it's a great time to be a fan, and it's a great time to be a wrestler, and it's a great time to have the forum that we do, to go on TV and to go on our streaming services and to put our content out there and to have these live matches. It just feels like there's never been a better time to be a pro wrestler or a pro wrestling fan.
Absolutely. And my final question, and I'll let you off the phone here, I've chewed your ear off enough, is, of course, a little bit of a softball. We're heading into Friday night. We're heading into Final Battle, traditionally Ring of Honor's biggest pay-per-view of the year. What is your final thoughts as we head into Friday night? It's Friday the 13th pay-per-view.
My final thought is it possible for one person to suplex both Silas Young and Josh Woods at the same time?
That'd be interesting. All right. Well, before I let you go, do you mind if I ask for one last favor from you?
Yep, of course.
You probably know what I'm going to ask for. Do you mind if I ask for a station ID? Just saying this is Joe Hendry.
Yeah, sure.
And you're in the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is the prestigious one, Joe Hendry, and you are in the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is Mandy Leon from The Allure, and you're listening to Wrestling Epicenter.
The following announcement has been paid for by a historian and the New World Order.
So the New World Order is going to inject their form of poison into the WWE Hall of Fame. They are taking over the Hall of Fame of the World Wrestling Entertainment. But even this active nod to history is not without Vince McMahon's own stamp of, we're going to put in my version, damn it!
2002 is when the NWO came in.
Well, it really is what they're doing. And if you doubt that, look at what they're saying online. These were the 4 members of the NWO? 4. What was Sean Waltman's name in the NWO again? 6. SYXX. Why was he called 6? Because he was the 6th member of the NWO, the New World Order. Number 1 was Hall, number 2 was Nash, number 3 was Hogan, number 4 was DiBiase, number 5 was the Giant, and number 6 was ding 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 ding. Somewhere in that mix is Elizabeth, Eric Bischoff, Buff Bagwell, Ray Traylor, and of course you got to include the fake NWO Sting, Jeff Farmer, somewhere in that mix as well. And of course no one can forget Soul Train Jones, Virgil Vincent, Shane. So ultimately, the NWO going in the Hall of Fame, while awesome, does have a little bit of a tinge to it of, our version was the best. And it was not. And why was it not? Well, number 1, because it had been seen before, and number 2, because it was overproduced. The NWO could attack at any moment in WCW. The NWO could only attack when the screen turned black and white and noises were made on WWE TV. The definition of overproduction. Nevertheless, congratulations to Hogan, Hall, Nash, and Sean Waltman, who we like on the show, by the way, because they are deserving to be in the WWE Hall of Fame for being part of the original NWO, even though Sean Waltman was not the 4th guy in the original NWO.
Yo, maniacs, this is Hulk Hogan, the greatest of all time, and you're listening to The Blaze, 1260 a.m. So what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan in Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with me right now is a gentleman who does books, a ghostwriter of sorts for the wrestling stars of the past. I love what he does. Of course, it is Walking on Hot Waffles is his publishing company, Kenny Casanova. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, thank you for having me on the call. I love it.
I love having you on, man. And I got to tell you, I've been reading your bio, getting prepared for this, and you and I have so much in common, it's not even funny. From college radio years by and all the way to being a writer in wrestling, it's a lot of stuff in common. So very cool to talk to somebody as a kindred spirit on our show here today.
We're a weird bunch, I guess, man.
We are, but that's okay. Being weird, who wants to be normal anyway?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your venture into the publishing game, where you're doing these ghostwriting books for guys that you don't necessarily think of having autobiographies, like Sabu, like Bugsy McGraw, just incredible. You guys have done some pretty cool books. What can you tell me about the publishing company?
So I was a manager for many years. I started early to mid-'90s. My gimmick was kind of Jim Cornette meets Jimmy Hart kind of character, loud dress, crazy. And on occasion, I would play kimchi for Kamala up in the northeast area. Yep. So many years later, fast forward, when he lost both of his legs to diabetes, I said to him, look, now's the time. We got to put a book out, man. Maybe we can help you get some medical costs back from that. And he thought about it for a little while, and then he put me through to the one guy he said that gave him the best financial advice, and that was Coco Beware. So Coco gave me the thumbs up. We started working on his book, and once we had it almost done, I started marketing it, and I realized that some small independent publishers were much like shady promoters, and they try to keep all the money for the boys. And I said, this isn't working. This is horrible, because we're trying to do a fundraiser here, and they're going to give him, pennies on the dollar for his book. So that's when I started studying up on publishing and seeing if we could do it ourselves and cut the middleman out. And that's what we did. So we set up a Kickstarter. Everyone jumped in on it. Steve Austin put him on his podcast and promoted it. Jim Ross, all these people started doing forward. And he did really well for himself. We made something like $30,000 right off of the bat on the book. And most often you would probably make like a $4,000 or $5,000 advance, something like that, right? So he made $30,000 in pre-sales. And the project did what it's set to do, was put the money back where the guy, the story's about, put it in his pocket. And basically I learned that the world is flat. Now, I'm not talking flat earthers, but we can compete with, big companies these days because of the internet. So we took advantage of that. I learned publishing. He did well, and then others started to follow suit. I did Danny Davis's book. I did Brutus Beefcake. Sabu, got Vader's book, and Tito's book is about to come out. I've had other offers like Bugsy, so I had other guys help write it. Great guy named Ian Douglas who did Hornswoggle's book, and Dan Severance, he stepped up and he wrote it. We published it and put it out. So I'm becoming a publisher, but I'm kind of an anti-publisher, if that makes sense.
You're bucking the trend of how publishing works, right?
Right.
Very cool. Now, a lot of the guys that you have done books for are from the era that I grew up in. I'm 38, so I grew up, in the 80s and early 90s watching these guys, and there seems to be, maybe it's just because it's the way I look at it, but there seems to be more of a nostalgic look at the 80s and 90s guys, and maybe even 70s guys as well, than there was for, I don't know, the guys that came in the late 90s. I don't know, maybe that'll come with time, but what do you think is the draw of that era? Why does that seem so magical to those my age and older?
I think, I don't want to say that it was new to us, but in an era when we were growing up, when things were more believable, you didn't have the internet age where you could, look up and find out who this guy was under a mask, or, how things worked, behind the curtain kind of thing. Some of us might have known that stuff was, for lack of a better term, fake, but we didn't know how it was fake, I think when the internet started coming about, you got the smarter fan. The smarter fan is more of a critic, I think, than they are a true fan. They're looking for things to happen the way that they want it to be, and they're critical. But back when we were growing up, we didn't have all that inside information and couldn't be critical because we didn't know how it worked. If that's a good answer, I don't know.
I think it's a good answer, because I listen to some people review like all the shows that happen now, and it's like they pick apart each one, and I'm just thinking, I remember watching WCW Saturday Night in 1992, and if I was being a critical guide now, like with my critical eye, I'd probably have picked it apart. But as a kid, I loved it because it just was a wrestling show.
Right.
And I think people need to get back to that a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So you've worked with some controversial characters, namely Sabu. That one really intrigues me because he's not a guy who likes to talk a whole lot. Has there ever been a big surprise in dealing with these guys like Kamala, like Sabu, who really aren't known for being big, talking about themselves kind of guys? Did you ever find anything surprising that they said?
Sometimes Sabu would use salty language from a different era that we can't use anymore, so I'd have to clean it up a little bit for him or what have you. But honestly, I think he's just misunderstood to some degree. He's just super old school, and maybe I would offer some insight. Let's not slam 5 guys. Let's just slam 1 or 2.
Right.
Not really, because most often the way that I help make the book happen is by ghostwriting. I listen to a bunch of interviews first, and then I ask them the questions that I've never heard before, so I can really fill it out, And in doing so, hearing all the different interviews wherever I can find it all, I've learned most of it. But like for Sabu, something that really got me that I had never heard, and that he had never really told, but not in depth anyways, that I had heard before, was that as a kid, he was at a party, and he got shot in the face, and it blew all of his teeth out. And he was in the hospital for many months, and his uncle, who was his father figure, the original Sheik, would come and visit him, and eventually he agreed to train him how to wrestle, almost as a means of self-defense, because he was attacked. So
wow.
Yeah, and I thought that was an excellent way to start a book, and that's kind of a little formula that I do in a lot of my books. When I write the guys' stories, I like to throw you right in the middle of a mess, and then jump back, tell their story, and then lead up to that point in the book again. Almost like a Tarantino way of telling a story, how he drops
Right, yeah. It's funny you said that. I'm thinking like Reservoir Dogs or something like that. That's what I'm thinking when you say that. Exactly.
I was thinking Pulp Fiction, but yeah, same idea. Yep.
Same principle. Yeah, there you go. All right, so I got to ask about the name because it's really a strange name, Walking on Hot Waffles. How'd that come to be?
So I just wanted to keep with the acronym. So I reverse engineered it, if that makes sense. I owned WOHW.com, which was promotion, because I had my hands in helping people promote, and I was a web designer. And there's an awesome wrestling promotion up in upstate New York called World of Hurt Wrestling, WOHW. And eventually they sort of changed hands a little bit, but I was kind of the booker along with a wrestler named Dave Dijon. He was known as Danger, and he was kind of like the promoter. I would write some storylines and kind of set up matches with him. And when that got passed off, they changed the URL. I still had WOHW and decided that a 4-letter acronym for a website, super easy to get to, and they're usually more valuable. So I said, I'm going to just change up what they mean, and played around with a bunch of things. And I thought it would be neat to go with Walking on Hot Waffles, because you're kind of thinking walking on fire, walking on hot coals, but then waffles, I try to throw some humor in there. I try to find the fun in the stories too. So
awesome.
That's how we came up with that.
Very good. You kind of just said it, but what is the website? WOHW?
Yep, WOHW.com. And if people are looking for the newest book, Tito Santana's book, that comes out, we'll actually get them delivered at the end of this week. You can pre-order at TitoSantana.com, because what I do is I make the boys their own websites up, and they sell all the autographed and collectible stuff off of their sites. I give them a platform so they have merch. That's kind of the whole project, is to help the guys make some money and keep the legends alive after they're not as much in the ring.
Absolutely, and Tito Santana is one of my favorite guys. I jokingly said to you, I went to his. He's an awesome guy. I went to his wife's salon's grand opening in
nice.
in New Jersey, back in 1997. So it's been a journey with Tito. I still have an autographed VHS tape on my wall of the Grudge match, which was one of the first WWF released VHS cassettes.
Coliseum video,
Coliseum
right?
video back in the day.
Nice.
Exactly right. All right, man. Well, is there any other books coming out other than Tito Santana, which is obviously in the very immediate future? But is there anything else on the horizon?
Okay, so working. You said Just Incredible's coming soon. We're kind of working on that. I have a couple of chapters in, still working on that. Curtis Hughes is being written by a buddy of mine.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Hughes.
he's working on
There you
that
go.
now. And Curtis Hughes is going to be called something like Back Out of Hell or something. And the cover will have all these flames and him coming through it, telling his struggles. So what's happened is, like I said with Bugsy McGraw, while I was writing Vader and Sabu at the same time, a couple guys were coming to me asking for books. So I'd ask other writers to write it for me, and then I would do this whole same publishing, anti-publishing process where they keep part of the IPO and they get to print as many as they want, at cost, and actually make some of the money off the book themselves for exchange. Same thing.
Awesome.
We also got Ken Patera, too. Ken Patera's in the works.
Oh, wow. That'll be an interesting one. You get a lot of great stories for some of these guys you're hearing. Like Mr. Hughes, we talked about him with a guest that we had on recently. He trained Kira Hogan, and we've interviewed her like 3 or 4 times on the show. So he comes up. These guys come up on our show, even if they're in the training role at this point. All right, man. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I'll let you get back. Sound like you're on the road in New York there. I grew up in the Northeast, too, which is another thing we have in common. I grew up in Richfield, New Jersey. So got that WWF in our blood, I guess, from the 80s.
Yep, definitely.
All right. So WOHW.com for all the great wrestling books that are coming out. And check it out. I thank you for joining us here today, sir.
Yeah, I really appreciate having me on. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's Tony Schiavone, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter. And I would stick around, but I'm desperately out of time.